Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we are going to specifically talk about Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition and getting new people into the game. And we're going to talk about it from the perspective of a really good video that really explained how to bring people into wargaming. Alright, so right now you will find the Tabletop Minion. Tabletop Minions is a YouTube channel, and it is a wargaming based channel. And this guy has done a tremendous job. I look to him as a mentor, right? Now, he doesn't cover Dungeons & Dragons. He specifically covers wargaming, okay? And from that perspective of covering wargaming, he has done a fantastic job with his channel in remaining independent. This is a big deal, right? So once you get any kind of scale, I don't need to worry about this. My channel's so small, I don't have sponsors knocking at the door, right? But once you have serious people watching, you can quickly cash in if you're willing to sacrifice your independence, right? And this starts right away with any Dungeons & Dragons channel that gets any type of scale, right? Now, I have about 1,800 subs, so I really don't have scale, so this really isn't an issue for me. But this guy has, real followers, and there's just a conga line of sponsors that are like, hey, can you up, our good game or our complete crap game, right? And if you're willing to sell out, you up them all and you just take the money. But he's done a really good job of being. So Tabletop Minions is a great example of a channel that has the ability to sell out, that hasn't, right? That has the ability to sacrifice independence, that hasn't. And there's another reason. I try not to just say, oh, here's a good video, right? Like, this is a great video that really needs to be paid attention to and has a lot of lessons for Dungeons & Dragons, okay? And it really has something different to say. Now, why is this video important? So, first of all, the video, you'll find it on Tabletop Minions. I would go over and watch the video at least, and I would subscribe. Subscribing is free. If you're really not into wargaming, I guess you don't need to do that. But if you have even a marginal interest, subscribe, because I think his channel is worth subscription, and I am subscribed to him. Okay, so Tabletop Minions is really interesting from the following perspective. It is so basically. He has this video up, and so you'll go over to Tabletop Minions, and the name of the video is How to Get Your Friends and Family into Wargaming. Now, why am I pointing you to this video? Well, here's the thing. We live in just an absolutely fascinating world. So what's fascinating about our world right now? Well, one of the things is this shift from physical labor to knowledge work. America is in a massive transition. The book's probably I think Fight Club's 40 years old. Fight Club had a huge, like, when I got my master's degree, I did not have a PhD. When I decided to get my master's degree, one of the reasons why I decided to do that was the book Fight Club. Fight Club said something we live in a post-data world. Data doesn't matter anymore, and the reason why is people ignore data. Take a look around. People are definitely in the business of ignoring data, right? And the reason why is it's not because the data isn't there. It's that people go, they gather the data, and then when it's time to analyze the data and get an answer, generally there's this huge pattern of allowing interest to color the data and color the analysis of the data. And when we ask a question, the answer is coming back through a filter of interest, right? So a lot of people are like, I don't care what data you have now. And the reason why is I think that the collection of the data was skewed, and I think that your analysis of it was skewed, and I think that there are parties that are interested in you giving an analysis of that data. So even if the data is pure and good, your analysis of it could be completely flawed, right? It's pretty interesting. Very, very interesting, just the way the whole thing, rolls out, right? So all this is happening. So, and we're in this, post-data world. But Fight Club said this thing that was brilliant. It said, if you work sitting down, you make more than if you work standing up. And boy, I have never heard more truer words, right? So the reason why I'm pointing you this video is this guy is brilliant. Guess what? That ain't special anymore. Super smart, super intelligent people, common as dirt, right? And actually, in our field, in Dungeons and Dragons, a game that has 7,000 pages of canon in the current version, just in the current version. And by the way, in my opinion, in order to engage with Dungeons and Dragons at the lowest level, you have to read 750 pages of content. Many DMs are now reading everything that's canon. That's 7,000 pages just for 5th edition. And get this, there are a lot of dungeon masters that read all the canon and then read additional beyond that, right? We have built a hobby that is master forged for college degreed people, right? And it's only going to get a lot worse, right? So this guy who's doing this video about how to bring in friends and family into wargaming, and I would say 80 to 90% of what he says is a snap lock fit with D&D, right? And actually, it's actually harder to get people into Dungeons and Dragons, and I'll explain that before we're done, than it is wargaming, which is shocking because wargaming is a heavy lift to get anybody new into, right? So here's the thing. The fact that this guy is a brilliant, intelligent person means nothing in tabletop commentary now. The super intelligent, smart people are common as dirt, right? Like if you have a channel and you got 1,000 plus videos, or even some of the I have over 2,000 videos on Dungeons and Dragons, right? The lightweights are actually I have over 2,000 videos on my channel. Lightweights have 300-400 videos, right? That's a lot of commentary, right? And intelligent commentary is not rare. What is incredibly rare is self-aware commentary. A perfect example of this is Dungeon Craft. Dungeon Craft is one of the best Dungeons and Dragons commentary channels that exists, right? And Professor Dungeon Master is brilliant, but he is shockingly unself-aware, right? He routinely is he is building a world where he's really encouraging people to bring in two types of players who are prepared to meet Dungeons & Dragons where Dungeons & Dragons lives, and he's saying we should be bringing in players into a game, and Dungeon Masters should do all their math for them. It's one of the most shockingly outrageous things I've ever heard. You have to be so you have to be so unaware of what that experience would be like, where, like, could you imagine an adult having another adult do math for them, right? Even if you're the same gender, if the dungeon master is male and the player is male, but could you imagine a male dungeon master saying to a female player, "I'm going to do all your math for you"? Like, do you remember Barbie saying math is hard? Like, it made international news, right? I just, Professor Dungeon Master is incredibly smart, but shockingly unaware, or shockingly unself-aware, right? Of just how ridiculous many of the things he's saying are, because he's just looking at the rules and the logic and the structure of the game. He's not looking at the social aspects of it. He's not looking at the cultural aspects of it. A lot of his play is divorced from from a more woke, inclusive, more peaceful future that we are currently crafting in America. So that's why I'm pointing you this video. It is the most self-aware video I've ever heard. So what does he say about bringing people into wargaming? And every single one of these is applicable to Dungeons and Dragons. First of all, he says this is going to be shockingly hard, right? He said, first of all, the first thing you need to do is you need to identify the person you want to get to play. First of all, do not ask them. You need to do an identification of whether you should even ask them or not. That's pretty amazing. He said, if they don't play any games, don't ask them, right? And he said, because if they don't play any board, if they own no board games, They don't really play phone games, and they don't play cards. You never even said just play a normal game of hearts, right? He says don't even ask them. And the reason why is the reality is someone who doesn't play normal games almost certainly cannot play Warhammer or any of the war games that you enjoy. It's not going to happen. This is shockingly self-aware, right? And why is this important? Because in Dungeons & Dragons, we have so many people who have a vested interest, right? They want to pretend Dungeons & Dragons is simple. It's not even remotely simple. Even if you just get the Essentials Kit, right? The Essentials Kit says there's over 100 pages of content in this book, and this doesn't even scratch the surface, right? There are warnings in the Essential Kit saying you ain't even seen the edge of the rabbit hole, right? And so Dungeons & Dragons is outrageously complicated, right? And there are a lot of people, Satine Phoenix is one of them, who desperately wants to bring new people in and pretend that Dungeons & Dragons is for everyone. And that's another thing. Everybody desperately wants Dungeons & Dragons to be for everyone. But there's a massive division between what is a very, very real, beautiful, unicorn, sparkly idea, right, that D&D is for everything. It's so easy to say it, right, to say Dungeons & Dragons is for everyone. But then, how does that match with the reality of 750 pages of content for even the most basic, bare, minimum interaction with the game, right? And the reality is everybody sitting at my table, two people around my table. There are currently 3.5 degrees around my table between 4 players, right? So one of our players does not have a degree. Brilliant player, right? Fully engaged and is highly literate without a degree, okay? But that player is not, that player is an exception, not even close to a macro level human being, right? He's brilliant, right? Frankly, I think, honestly, we got 4 players at my table. I'd be highly surprised if we didn't have 2 to 3 geniuses there. And increasingly, we have many, many geniuses in our community, right? And I think there's some kind of genius club, right? And the reality is, when you have a game that has 7,000 pages of canon content in the current edition alone, it is ludicrous to pretend that Dungeons & Dragons is for everyone. We can say it, right? But it's lip service. And if we don't even have a single version of the game that's less than 100 pages, right? And honestly, my dream is that 6th edition will be an 80-page book that has everything the DMG, everything the monster manual, everything the DMG, the MM, and the monster manual, all in one game, and we can make a reality out of the unicorn statement, right? It's a unicorn statement. It's beautiful. It's meaningful. I would love for it to be true, but I'm also not going to be. I'm sick of performativeness, right? We are being performative in Dungeons & Dragons. If you have 7,000 pages of canon content and you say the game's for everyone, that is ludicrous. We are building a game for highly literate, highly intelligent, highly charismatic, highly confident people. And every time anyone moves forward and actually suggests real changes to the game that would make the game be for everyone, everybody gets all their hair in a twist, right? And that's what I'm saying is. And so this person said, first of all, some people you shouldn't even ask. The other one he said is, don't repeat yourself. Ask once. If they say no, you're done, right? That actually echoes something I said recently. Stop repeating yourself. It's really, really important that we stop repeating ourselves. We get in trouble when we repeat ourselves. So like that, when we're making a request, right? And even in my commentary, I try not to repeat myself. I know I'm not successful at that. I double tap a lot of concepts so that I can kind of get to the marrow, go through the bone and get to the marrow. So if I'm ever repeating myself, one, I apologize. I try the best I can not to. But two, if I am repeating myself, I'm trying to drill deeper and get to the marrow. It's not because I just want to spout the same thing. So, and, I'm a flawed human. I don't do perfect all the time. I'm trying. All right. So all that's there, right? So the next thing he said is, you have to understand what an outrageously ridiculous request this is. One, it's a massive amount of time, right? Two, let's talk about lore. Some people don't care about lore, right? But war games are deep, deep, deep in lore. So is Dungeons & Dragons, right? So you're saying, I need you to learn these rules. I need you to learn this lore. I need you to learn the traditions of this game that exist at the table, right? Hockey has a lot of unwritten rules. Dungeons & Dragons is the same thing. Like, here's a good one. You're not going to ever find it you'll never find this in the Dungeon Master Guide. Don't touch other people's dice, right? That is an unwritten rule of Dungeons & Dragons. If you just pick up somebody's D20 and roll it, and you roll a 20, they're gonna be like, you used the juice out of that dice, you son of a, like, it could come to blows, man. Like, that's a joke. It won't come to blows, but it will upset people, right? Like, you don't touch another person's dice. Totally unwritten, right? So you're saying, hey, you gotta learn this lore. You gotta learn all these rules. You gotta learn the unwritten rules, right? By the way, when I invited you to my Dungeons & Dragons game, I didn't tell you that there's going to be a whole safety protocol called a Session 0 before it, which is 4 hours of suck. You're going to hate it, right? And by the way, there might be multiple sessions before there's the first D&D session, right? Like, and he talks all about this with Wargaming. He's like, one, you shouldn't even ask this question of some people. The people who it is safe to ask the question of, you can only ask it once. Two, you have to hold this request very carefully in your heart, right? Like, be ready for the no, right? And then what really blew my mind was he said, you can't beat them, right? You can't. He goes, like, what's the honor and what is the point of bringing them to your Warhammer game? And I love that he knew he had to say this, right? You can't, ask them to build a 1,200 point army. They do all the work, and then you just smash the crap out of them at the table, right? And it's the same thing in Dungeons & Dragons, right? You can't kill them on session 1, right? You have to make sure you construct a story where they're actually going to live through session 1, right? You can't run a funnel game, right? Like, and so I'm pointing you to this video because it's brilliant and it's self-aware, and that's where we are right now. Brilliant commentary is nothing. It's bog standard, right? Where we are now in Dungeons & Dragons commentary is brilliant, self-aware commentary, right? And also, I would even add honest, because what I talked about earlier, one of the reasons why I love Tabletop Minions is he hasn't been corrupted by sponsors, right? There are a lot of Dungeons & Dragons commentary guys out there who are brilliant and even self-aware, but they're not honest because they can't afford to be honest. Somebody's paying them $2,500 for a single video to not be honest, right? So that's where we're landing. I'm pointing you to this video because this is an example, right? And you can use this to get Dungeons & Dragons players to ask your friends and family. And really, to tell the truth, one of the things I think is really interesting is the video is how to get your friends and family to play wargaming. But really, I think if you're paying attention, it's really saying, hey, I know you want your spouse to play. I'm going to explain to you why they probably never will, and why they probably won't. So the video, as much as it is teaching someone to recruit, it's also telling them why a lot of their recruitment will fail, right? And even should fail, and preparing wargamers to not have more people around the table because their hobby is so arcanely complicated. And Dungeons & Dragons is no different. All that's my opinion. Take a look at the video. Let me know if you've seen Tabletop Minion stuff. Let me know if you think I have any of this wrong. Let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.